My friends, welcome back to the Meaningful People podcast. We're so happy to have you, and we are so excited to present this episode to you. This is where we sit down with Hagoyin Harav Rosh Yeshiva, Reuven Feinstein.
So in the basement, or right when you walk into this building that we shoot the Meaningful People podcast, there's a picture of not Reb Reuven, but his father, Reb Moshe Feinstein. And I don't know about you, Nachi, I always look at it, I always smile a little. People are like, what is he doing? Yeah. But it's the picture of Reb Moshe learning in camp. I think it was taken by Mr. Yarmish. And I don't know, it always gets me excited. So This episode specifically, I was very excited to meet Reb Reuven. Have you ever met him before?
I don't think so. Maybe I've been in the same room, but I've never was able to sit down across from him for more than an hour and speak to him. It was really fun.
Yeah, I think this is a first...
Gadol.
Yeah. I mean, there's other people that are Gedolim, but it's the level, and I think you could hear in our voices that how nervous we were to do this.
Very.
But we were lucky too, and he shot out so many gems of awesomeness.
Wisdom.
What did you say?
I said wisdom. You said awesomeness.
Yeah, both good.
All right, so go ahead and listen on. We hope you enjoy this episode, and make sure to share it with 2 friends. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Meaningful People podcast, the podcast where we talk to people who are...
meaningful.
Yeah, that sounds good.
We are sitting here with the Rosh Yeshiva, Hagoyin Rav Reuven Feinstein. Thank you so much for taking the time and allowing us into your home.
So we have so much that we want to talk to Yeshiva about, but if we could, I guess, go back in time somewhat. I'm going to start off with a story. I used to hear that the Yeshiva's father used to warm up the Yeshiva's clothing before Yeshiva or something along those lines.
More or less something like that. What it was in the old rules, which I don't think any of you is still around knows, the steam even the ones that had steam, not everybody had steam in those years. Even ones that could put it on at 6, that's when it can go on and go for 10. The rest of the time you freeze. It doesn't make a difference. No such thing as 55, no such thing as that. Those were new laws added in the 50s and something like that. In those times it was... my father would he would get up much earlier, and he would put on my clothes on the steam by 6 o'clock so he should warm up. And he would dress me under the covers, a little kid. And, thinking about it then the only thing I thought of was that he really loved me and stuff like that. And in fact, I'll tell you a story about that, which is interesting. But I think it was that he felt I shouldn't have an excuse not going to yeshiva, something like that. But Baruch Hashem. I was once there. I happened to have made a statement somewhere that my son got bar mitzvahed on Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving Day was bar mitzvah. That the convention used to start on Thanksgiving Day. And we were planning having the bar mitzvah on MTJ in the east side. Okay, I was here already. The yeshiva here is 55 years old, but I'd say I would have been living here. I would have come for the Shabbos because this is my yeshiva. So I'm going to be my kid will be my mitzvah, my yeshiva. But for my father's sake, I wasn't going to schlep him. So we're going to be in MTJ. And he tells me he can't be by the bar mitzvah on Shabbos, because he has to be at the convention. So I said, okay. So we made the Bay Yom, whatever that's what they call it these days. And it was on Thanksgiving, and we attended that. We made the hul, and then he went to the convention. And we came here for his bar mitzvah. So the Maggid, the male crone, he asked me, how do you know God loved you? How do you know your father loved you? So I told him the story. I don't, like how, like I said, first he asked it this way. Did you know your father was that? Wouldn't you have been disappointed your father wasn't there? I said, of course I was disappointed. But weren't you angry or upset about it? I said, no. If he told me he can't make it, he can't make it. I know he'd come because he loves me. He's not doing it because he doesn't love me. He has to be somewhere else. He has to be somewhere else. So he said, now you know. I told him the story. Yeah.
What does the Rosh Yeshiva think that?
But that's not the only way I know he loved me.
Okay, what are other ways?
No. The reason why I'm answering that question, could be for your people. I was at a termissary question answer thing pretty recently, and they asked me the question of, the kids come to you and they say, we're the only ones in the class that don't have the smartphone or the iPhone, whatever phone they have to have, and we must have it, and they're saying there. And if not, they'll think we don't love them, and therefore we have to give in to them. What do you say about that? And the first thing I asked them back was, is that the only way your children know you love them is by giving them the smartphone? That's the only way. You're right. What can you do? There's other ways.
Well, what are some of those other ways?
Knocking our young parents.
I did this.
I didn't give my 1-year-old a smartphone yet. I mean, we're trying to figure out the other ways.
Okay. Many years ago, I was asked by Aguda to make a speech about family obligations against the needs of the klal. You're always running to meetings, you're always running to this, and meanwhile your kids are not. He said, I don't understand it. Why don't you just take your wife with you and make her part of your program that you're doing, and take your kids with you? As you're going to a parlor meeting, take your kids. You have a guest speaker there, listen there, teach them how to give money. I'll tell you that. No, it's not they give them your check to give the kid. You give over. That's not, the kid didn't learn a thing from that. Because it wasn't his money, he didn't feel the pain or whatever it is that you feel from giving something. Tell him you have money. Assume he has money, it's from allowances and stuff like that. You give some of your money. It's an important thing. And that way, and the kid will look forward to going with you, whatever it is. If he has a nice time, obviously your job to make sure that he has a nice time. And the thing there, we get something to eat, whatever they do at a parlor meeting, but the thing there. And also to pay attention, to listen. Why is there a thing that they're not part of your life? That's a major part of your life. So they should be part of it. Okay, you get into trouble with that sometimes too. Like I said, how when you talk to your wife, in my case, talk to my wife when we're driving to the affair, and then it's an affair. Usually the smorgasbord is usually everybody's at the smorgasbord, so you can talk to your wife while you're at the smorgasbord and talk about the important things about the thing, and it's silence. Stop. Nobody here eats with their wife at a smorgasbord or even drives in a car with their wife. So at the end of that one, I didn't have any other eitzah for them at the moment, but they're saying. But this is a problem but there's many ways you can show. Let's say, for instance, and this only takes once. A kid wants to learn with his father. Okay, never has time for him. But this time the kid says, I got to bechina tomorrow. So the father says, okay, I like to eat in quiet, but you got to begin it tomorrow. Come, I'm eating supper. You sit over there, you say, and I'll ask you questions, and we'll go on thing there. And the father took whatever time he had in, and then the father leaves. That kid will always remember that my father took from his time, from his eating time, when he needed that little menucha that he can have, and he gave it to me. That's all it takes. It doesn't take every time I have to learn my kid. No such thing. But the kid, you have to do something sometimes that shows that he means something special to you. He's your kid.
It's really nice. The Rosh Yeshiva grew up in a home that was obviously very halacha-based. And
okay. Okay.
Is there maybe advice that the yeshiva could give towards people in terms of just properly following halacha the right way?
There's really only one way, I think, that you realize that supersedes all of you. In other words, if the halacha doesn't supersede me, then forget about it. Then there's nothing that I want to do God's will, and that supersedes. How do I know what God's will is? That's the halacha, the Gemara, the Shulchan Aruch, and so on. So that's what I'm supposed to do. Now, sometimes it's inconvenient, but most times it's beautiful. Shabbos, which is a big problem. I don't want to use the word modern because that's not a right description of the family. But let's say there were, years ago anyway, there were what we call Orthodox communities that would have baseball games in uniforms on Shabbos. Besides the shaila of halacha that they have cleats on their shoes and they're making boros, but it's not proper. I'm not saying you shouldn't play ball. A kid should play ball in your Shabbos suit. Today is different. Today I play ball in my Shabbos suit. You want to things that are not also, you can play. No one's stopping you to play. But the whole idea, because we're off today, we have nothing else to do. If we might have gone, I can't watch television, I can't watch this, there's nothing else to do. There's plenty of things to do. Make your table where you're eating. And that's one of the big problems I understand that still exists, getting kids down to eat together with the family on Shabbos. It's too drawn out, it's too long, and it's this and that, and I'm in the middle of my book, and I want to lay over there, or play, or whatever it is there. Hey, it's Shabbos. We eat together. Okay. By the way, I used to eat together every night with my parents. We had a four-course dinner every night. It was a formal dinner.
4 courses?
No family, huh?
4 courses.
4 courses, yeah, okay. And nobody was doing anything, we were talking. Of course, I was a little kid, but they were still talking to me. Shabbos, the simplest thing to do, I don't think you should use it for this again, people may get a little upset about. It shouldn't be used for beginners, shouldn't be used for reviews. It should be used for a thing where you don't want the kid afraid of coming to the table. You want the kid to want to come to the table. It should be talking about what bothers you. Any questions you have. No criticism on any questions. Questions you're entitled to have. And that's one of the things we get a lot of kids to get turned off on. If they'll ask you a question, and this is a valid question. How do you know there's a God? So I don't know what to answer. What don't you know what to answer? He didn't ask you what the Ramban holds or the other guys holds. He's asking what you hold. You don't know why you believe in God. If you don't know, you got a problem. But if you know, then you tell it to the guy. Maybe you'll get him to understand it also.
What would your answer be to that question?
It depends on the guy. You think there. I'll tell you how to find God in your world, in your life, in 2 weeks' time. Okay, very easy. Okay, you guys got the phones, right? That have all the things they can put down on it. Okay, so you got a ticket today.
I did.
Okay, put that down. See where it leads you. Okay, what happens? I missed the bus even though I came early. Put it down. I got the bus even though I came late. Put that down. Your life was changed because of that. You don't realize it if you say it was on rotten luck or good luck or something like that. You don't understand at all what's going on. But if I'm going to follow it and see what's going to happen, you'll see there's a God in the world. There's someone who's looking out for you or is out to get you, one of the two. But there are consequences and stuff like that, and then you have to know to stay on the right side. But as far as there is a reason why these things are happening. They're not happening just because, I don't know.
Did the Rosh Yeshiva always want to go into chinuch? Was that something that Rosh Yeshiva always thought?
Probably not.
No?
No. And then when I was making my transition from Bacha to Yungaman, there really was very little Kailim around. In fact, there's no such thing. I think I got paid once, $25 from the Kailim, and never again. And my wife worked, and I ate by my in-laws, so we were able to do it. And Baruch Hashem, when I went to Lakewood, I think I made an attempt that I would like to stay in learning. That time, what does it mean, like to stay in learning? In fact, I couldn't even get a job.
Really?
Really. Why? Because nobody would hire me because they felt they can't fire me.
Really?
Yeah. It's very unbad. And we needed the money because my shver died. And instead of being, what do you call it, him supporting me, now we always have enough money. And he was in chinuch. He was a rabbi, a little Talmud Torah besides, so he made a little better, but that's how he was able to feed us and all that stuff. But the rent my wife made, she worked. She was the Besakiv teacher. And that was it. And then she became a public school teacher. We needed that much, so she had to go to become a public school teacher. But at that time, I would have liked to stay in chinuch. Not in chinuch, but in Jewish stuff, in learning. But I couldn't learn anymore. I had to go out and make a living. So I couldn't get a job until they know I'm not going to go into who, what, and when, but a favor was owed to my brother-in-law. He was able to get me the job.
Really?
And then the rest is history.
Because I would think it would, kind of the opposite, that Rosh Yeshiva would have an easy time, probably just...
No, this time. My father would not put me into the yeshiva by him.
For a nepotism?
Just because he's the Rosh Yeshiva? No. If he needed, he'd put my brother in. He needed a rabbi at that time. So why shouldn't he put his own son, when he has a thing? I don't think there was anything worried about nepotism in that sense. But simply there was there's no need. So if you no need, we ain't giving you no money. So I had to go somewhere else. And I went to, and I said, I don't want to mention the names. A lot of people know where it is. There's not a point, but I couldn't. They way above give me the job. That had to do because of a special situation that happened at that time that I was able to, that my brother-in-law was involved.
Sorry, I know Rosh Yeshiva just mentioned his brother, who passed away not too long ago. Was Rosh Yeshiva very close with the David?
Pretty much, but we were 8 years difference in age. But he was my hero.
Really?
Yeah, my big brother.
Older brother.
Not my older brother, my big brother.
What's the nafka mean between older and big?
An older brother is I fight with him. I don't fight with my brother. The first word, whatever it was, but he always took me with him. And basically his friends were my friends, and probably looked as old as he did. So as far as I'm concerned, we always were like more or less in the same group, except the group itself knew that I'm just there because of, what do you call it? And I had my own, but as far as, he always took me, never made me feel, like I would go beat it, squirt, we don't need you here, something like that.
And 8 years is a lot of years. It's not like, just 2 years and okay, you could fit in. 8 years is significant.
That has, I didn't know this facts for a long time, till I was in the 40s. But the reason for that is that the Russians, the communists, when they came into town, they broke the mikvahs. And this my mother told me years later, and I was not going to question my mother and father about the situation. They brought the mikvahs. But somehow, after my father was dead already, and we were talking once about Luban, about the town. She said, why he made a mikveh. Because the butcher came to him and told him that he can't live without a woman. can't live with his wife, and so he's going to go to the shiksa. So Yeshiva told him, wait 2 weeks, I'll have a mikveh for you. And he made the bathhouse into a mikveh. And a bunch of tshuvas about that, and most of them are not extent. I don't know about that. But that's what he did. But he wouldn't use it for himself. In fact, I believe that not only didn't he use it for himself, my mother could have gone to the river and during the summertime. Right? But then people would still think he went there.
Wow.
So 8 years until they came to Riga. And then they got out.
Wow.
They had a kosher mikveh. That's a chumrah. Yes.
We'll get right back to this episode of the Meaningful People podcast.
And this episode is with the one and only Reb Reuven. So we want to talk about AMR in a more of a serious matter. Mm-hmm. Life is bigger than anything. And we know that Avodas Hashem and Torah, those are the thing that matters. And it's very important to be healthy and to take care of our bodies so we could serve Hashem to the ultimate. And that's why.
Oh, that's why you should call AMR Pharmacy. I was not sure where you were going with that.
I don't know. You know, honestly, I left you hanging. I kind of do that with
You do
AMR
that
ads.
all the time.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So that's why you should give AMR a call, because they take life very seriously as well. Mm-hmm. They're good people who take life seriously, who love Hashem.
B'nai Torah.
B'nai Torah. And so don't be shy. Don't be shy. You want to live a long, prosperous life full of health, success, happiness. Give AMR a call at 848-222-1110. It will be the best decision you make in your entire life.
And if you want to visit them on their website with, I hope you have a filter, it's AMRPharmRx.com. That's AMR Farm, that's PHARMRX.com.
And if you don't have a filter, they can probably provide one for you.
Now enjoy the rest of the episode.
That's not true. Bye. Is there a specific lesson to this day that you hold on to, that you hold more to your heart, that you learned growing up in the house of your parents? A specific lesson, an idea, a midah.
Just being a regular guy. But I mean, I assume I need this and these things you learn, but I can't just tell you specifically. If you'll tell me what you learned, and I'll tell you that's what you learned.
So I think here's a good example, that the fact that Nachi and I, let's say your father, we can only read about him or learn his, the Torah or his writings, but we were born after he was already nifter. But we read it and see the Torah he put out, but then we also hear stories of how, if I could say, how normal he was and how a normal home that you grew up in.
That's what normal means. Normal means you're like everybody else. If I have to be someone special, then I'm not like everybody else. And that's what he was, like everybody else.
Did you as a kid realize that your father was this Gadol Hadar?
I told you. He's the only father I had. I assumed everybody's father was like that.
I mean, at what age did it register to you that, okay?
Probably when I was in Tells, that it really registered who he was. I mean, I knew already he was a Rosh Yeshiva, and that I recognized in a way. But that the people were subservient, and that I didn't realize probably until I was in Tells.
What was it interesting that the Yeshiva went to Tells as opposed to?
I don't know, those years I probably went a little excitement to be out of town. I used to hang around the dormitory in the MTJ, but then you had to go home. I mean, then where else do you have friends? We're not hanging out in the street. So I went to go to Tells.
Dorm life.
Tells. And I was there till I graduated high school.
Wow. I want to fast forward to if I could ask, what was it like for the Rosh Yeshiva when your parents passed away? Was it?
With my father, it was probably pretty traumatic. I could have been in the ambulance at the time when it happened. I don't know, but that was a point that it's unexpected, and how we're going to go on. But the world goes on. My mother was already, I think, I'm now the older generation. It's a big whop to know that you're the older generation. The buck stops here, nowhere else.
What's that feeling? Is it scary? Is it tremendous?
I don't know if it's any feeling of scary or not scary. I guess to a certain extent it's a responsibility. You can't blame it on anybody else. You can't do it. It's you.
Was there a sense of responsibility that you felt after your father, the Rosh Yeshiva, had passed away? Did you feel like, okay, me and my brother now are, Rav David
To my brother is going to be over there, and I was over here. I don't know, we probably much continued the way it was. I don't think there was any we changed things because of it.
So I want to talk a little about the Rosh Yeshiva being in Staten Island over here. Nachi and I came over here. We're saying it kind of feels like we're in a kind of like a bubble in a certain way. Like we're still in.
You are.
So, Rosh Yeshiva we were talking a little before the mics were on. Rosh Yeshiva say,
I'm going to tell you a thing that's probably shock you.
Okay.
All right. Nobody smokes in this yeshiva.
Wow. Is that a policy? Is that a rule?
Not a rule.
Not even a rule.
We have no clothes rule.
Hmm.
But everybody looks the same anyway. But
Right, everyone's wearing
What's
white
the
shirt.
been from the
and-
time they were kids.
What's the explanation for that?
We teach.
You teach not to smoke, or
Yes, but not to teach them not to smoke. Teach them about not getting into things that can become habitual. That's the din of Ben Seir Meira. What did he do? He stole money from his parents twice. He bought the big extra size meat and a good bottle of wine. And that was it. And for that, we're going to kill him. So it happens you have only 3 pieces in the Torah that at least one Tana that says Dorosh Mekabel Schar. In other words, it'll never happen, it can't happen, and one of them is Ben Seir Meira. So what's the point? So the Gemara answers Dorosh Mekabel Schar. Learn it and you get schar. Okay, that's very nice. We have a small Torah of 10 mitzvahs, I mitzvah, noyach. Okay, you want to throw in another mitzvah we should study? Okay, I can understand that. We're not getting through the Shas. We're not getting through the Shulchan. No. What are you throwing at a couple of more mitzvahs at me? I don't even know what you're talking about, right? So Dorosh Mekabel Schar means learn it and you'll get to understand what a lot of things, and a lot of things, what we call a classical case, means that it's not necessarily can happen, but it teaches you the guidelines. Okay, I'll give you a mushal one if you want. You need a mushal one. The Gemara Ben Bekua. Ben Bekua is the cow that's in the cow when you shecht it. Okay, you have 2 cows sitting with their backs to each other, where the womb would go into. And from the pregnant woman, from the pregnant behemoth, the calf goes out and goes into the unpregnant behemoth. It's impossible. But that's the case. What do you tell me such a case for? It's impossible. Who cares? I want to tell you what makes it, when it becomes a ben bikuah, it must always be inside the mother's womb, or as long as it's enclosed by something else, it's also ben bikuah. And that's the way they gave you the thing. It doesn't have to be the mother's womb, it's someone else's womb. But it can happen, not convenient for other things. There was one sort of, that was upgissen is?
A what?
Upgissen. You have to soak the meat before if you want to salt it.
Right.
So you have to
Get out
soak
the
it,
blood.
and if you didn't salt it within 3 days, you soak it again. And what do you call it? And this guy would put it into refrigerated trucks, packed, and said it's a ben bikuah. Don't have to salt it yet. Still inside. Never came out. Okay? Maybe maybe not. I'm not going into psak. I'm just giving you an idea of it. So that's the point. So the shadow is what's the lesson of Ben Seir Meira? The Gemara says, so Rashi brings down, and let's understand what we're talking about. We're talking about a kid 13 years old to 13 and a half that steals twice from his parents, and we're going to kill him because he's surely going to kill somebody. So you might as well kill him when he's innocent and kill him when he's guilty. Right? What about tshuva? Never heard those laws. Anything there doesn't make sense. The idea is that you're not supposed to just put yourself into an habitual situation. Now, we're not even talking about marijuana, which is coming up, and dope. We're talking about food, gourmet food. That's what we're talking about. But gourmet food also can become a habit that you can't break or don't want to break. And you want to live up to that standard, if you call it. And that's the thing. So your job is to stay away from anything that causes you to be habitual. That's all. No other Torah. That's what the Torah teaches you. I'll tell you another thing that I think will shock you, okay? I was once at a Dirsha convention, and I was being interviewed by the Israeli counterparts, and they asked me, what do we talk about in the yeshiva? I said, we talk about murder. Then at least he got to smile a little bit. He just wanted to break, but he didn't. He didn't break into that. Yeah. That's what they did. I said, the reason that guys are careless is they don't realize they're murderers. In other words, I didn't mean to do anything. You're right, you didn't mean to do it. But that's what a murderer is. A murderer is a guy who doesn't care, doesn't protect himself from not killing someone. That's the problem. He's a murderer. He may not be chayiv misa, but a goy is chayiv misa. A drunk driver, that's a goy, is chayiv misa. A Jew will put him in Yori Miklat. But you can't say you're innocent. I didn't mean it. So you learn how to be responsible. You learn how to not to be careless. I think that's one of the things.
It's really beautiful. If we could, I would like to talk about the Rosh Yeshiva's Rebbitzin and the Rosh Yeshiva's,
Any reason? I think it's very popular, I have no reason not to. I'm just
well, first off, what's something that someone could look for, and if we kind of off the camera mentioned someone dating, and what should someone look for when they're trying to find their spouse?
I don't have the business, but didn't come out yet. I'll give you a set of my Chumash things in English. It's okay. But the Hagdama of Bamidbar is like, what's the purpose of Bamidbar? It's a couple of nice stories. It's the stories of the maturity of Klal Yisrael. It's how they developed from whatever they were originally and what they were, and to go in different situations and stuff like that. And I put it to my own life. I said, we got married. Maybe we were playing it life, if you want to call it that. We get married, but we weren't making. She was working, but wasn't a point of making a living in that sense. We didn't have the full responsibility on us, and life makes you develop. Is a thing that causes you, and you have to be aware of it, and you have to be, to take advantage of the different turning points and things like that. So I'm saying, we were two young kids on the east side. That's about it, After that, no one knew what's going to happen with us. We had no idea what's going to happen with us. Wasn't saying I planned this is what I'm going to do when I get. We're thrown in. After my shver died, we were actually thrown into, have to make a living, and at the point where nickel was a big deal.
A nickel?
A nickel.
What could a nickel buy back then?
And back then, you could buy a newspaper.
Pizza?
How much is newspaper gold today? $3, $2, $1? I don't know what they cost.
Who buys newspapers these days?
Yeah, that's another thing. Okay, but whatever they are. Candy bar. But, okay, but so it's $1, let's say. But even if it's $1, we got married in the 50s. I once looked up, not I, the guy next to me, we stopped at a gas station and it said, gas $2.83 a gallon. I don't know if that's now or not. I stopped driving because my wife was killed. So I said, check what 1970 $2.83 was worth then. Today's $2.83, what was it worth then? A quarter. Okay? So for a quarter, we just stopped yourself from buying a gallon of gas. So I put $2.83 and making a big tumult about it.
There's a Maisa of the Rosh Yeshiva going to police auctions to buy gifts for your wife or your children.
That's one thing that I decided when I went into Cairo. When I can't justify myself. I'm not going to make a living. But one thing, they shall not have to sacrifice to be married to me.
You wanted your kids to have
everything else. They won't have it, but they'll have whatever I had.
I mean, we don't even. What are police auctions? What are police?
They don't have them anymore. After 9/11, they don't have them. Before 9/11, they had it 4 times a year at the downtown, which was a few blocks from MTJ. There. Used to go, and I would bid. And the interesting part about it, I didn't know all these things when I started to bid on it. I came there once, I bought a bike, I bought this, and I saw jewelry. Now, my wife don't have jewelry. And I see big bags of gold. And they tell you it's 14 karat or 18 karat. That much they told you. But they didn't take about the diamonds or the stones in there. They were selling all of this they weren't selling, it was an auction that the dealers were bidding for scrap gold. That means whatever gold sells for melted down. Right. I'm buying made gold, in other words, rings, earrings, pins, very cool, stuff like that. So, I had a little bit of advantage over them in that sense. So I'm willing to pay a little more than they are. But they all came with stones. And the stones got weighed as gold. And they were diamonds. So once we got the first package, I was back all the time.
You were a regular there.
All right. No. But basically. And I would pick up my kid. I would go to these used stores, for things. I do it for my grandchildren, too.
They like this massive full of candy. Or
you should see the toy section downstairs.
Maybe we're not going to go play a little out there.
That's right.
But something I want to bring up with Rosh Yeshiva, and if Rosh Yeshiva doesn't want us to talk about this, we don't need to. But this story that I heard gave me a lot of chizuk. That I know Rosh Yeshiva was in a car accident with the Rebbitzin, and I heard that the Rosh Yeshiva mentioned something along the lines of the Rebbitzin, I don't know, encouraging or telling Rosh Yeshiva to leave the car, and that...
No.
Am I mixing it up?
We hit the thing, and she said to me, why did this happen? We just coming back from a mitzvah. So I said, we weren't talking about the mitzvah, we were talking about lunch. So the thing there. But that time I thought she was perfectly fine. I'm still thinking about whether I should have sued the fire department, because they technically took her to a hospital that had no trauma department. And in the end, they had to send her there anyway. And whatever time it took, I don't know if that made a difference or not, but they got an infection. What cut her was the seatbelt. The seatbelt saved in a way, you didn't go through the windshield, but also cut her in the stomach. And whatever it is, and then they didn't realize that for a while, until they got it in. So, yeah.
So that didn't have, the Rebbetzin didn't tell Yeshiva to lead to...
No. We both got out at the same time.
It was, we were speaking to Naftali Miller, and Naftali told us that you had reached out to him when the Rebbetzin was in the hospital, and you asked him to get people to start davening and saying Tehillim, and after the Rebbetzin had passed away, you called him right away and you asked him to tell everyone that they could stop, not to be matriach anybody. And I think that's an incredible awareness. It's a very unique awareness to think, after the Rosh Yeshiva lost his Rebbetzin, to think about everybody else who's davening.
There's a cute one. They sent me that in. You see that picture?
Yeah.
You want to give it, when you take it off that thing? Yeah, that one. This has nothing to do with what it says on the bottom.
Should I read it?
Yeah.
Okay, it's the moment. I think this is from Mishpacha magazine. It says, standing at JFK airport, the Yeshiva swayed back and forth, having just torn Kriya for his life's partner, Rebbetzin Shlit Feinstein, a talmid of Reuven Feinstein, wishing he could alleviate the Yeshiva's pain, even if but a drop, managed to locate a loose chair in the airport, and he brought it over. Here's our chair, the talmid told his Rebbe. Reuven nodded in gratitude as his eyes searched out his older brother, Rav David. Thank you, he told the talmid. Please bring it to my brother.
Wow. This is beautiful.
Okay. So I can't answer you. That maybe if you want to tell you, I was taught by my parents. You don't lose yourself. That's first of all, you don't betray yourself, you don't lose yourself. It's not a pleasant situation. And I think Jews are that way. And I remember Rabbi Yankov's Levaya, Rabbi Yankov Kamenetsky's, you actually had to experience it. We had a Levaya, it was a very sad situation. That night, I was Masada Kedushin at a wedding, where I'm going to have to dance with the chassan. So you go from sad to happy,
right?
And goes from happy to sad the same way. Because that's what we are. We do what God says to do, and that's what we do. And we have to subjugate ourselves to God's will.
Reb Naftali also mentioned that when Reb David came to the Rosh Yeshiva after the Rebbetzin passed away, that Reb David didn't say anything to Rosh Yeshiva. He just gave the Rosh Yeshiva a kiss.
It didn't happen in the hospital, but it's a good idea of what the idea is.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is that idea?
That means that all I have to show is that I'm with you. It doesn't take words. You have a certain shaykhs one with the other, like with more than a shaykhs, I guess. But to show that I care, I'm with you. And then we don't kiss normally. I'm over the simcha, a personal simcha, though, and not something we both attending the same simcha.
Is that a lesson, really? I mean,
my father, we always kissed.
Yeah.
Again, when I didn't see him for a while, we always kissed.
Everyone is going, through something, always, especially nowadays, but always. And as a friend, as a parent, as a sibling, is that a way that we can be there for each other? You mentioned that words don't really do justice.
Right, it's not going to help you. But yeah, that's basically, I'm here. What can you do for me? Nothing you can do for me. But I'm still here.
So I once heard that an eitzah the Yeshiva once gave to someone was, they were going through a hard time and they went to the Yeshiva and they said, what could I do? What could I take on myself to get me out of this matziv or just help improve the situation? And the Yeshiva suggested to him to just go to a corner and talk to Hashem. Is that the...
Pretty much.
Is that the eitzah that we should be...
Basically, I put it a little bit more. First of all, you have a cheshbon and nefesh out there, but you don't do it in this thing. But you don't have to wait to Shemini Esrei to talk to God. You can talk to him all the time. You have a problem now. It hurts now. So talk to him.
In your own words, you could just go.
Your own words. Not telling you Seamus. Just say, Banish song, please, whatever, God, whatever you're going to use. Please, I don't know how am I going to do. The thing. And it is.
If the Rosh Yeshiva could sit down with one person from history or someone who's no longer here, whether to schmooze with them, to learn with them, who would the Rosh Yeshiva sit down with?
Myself, someone who would you invite to dinner?
Yeah. Oh, it could be dinner.
Dinner's fine.
I never really thought of it that way. Probably Kalev. No, be fun, Ask me. Rabbi Akiva would probably be another one.
What would you speak to them about?
Which one?
Kalev.
Kalev. He had a very interesting life. And that's what I want to know all about. He is only one of 3 people that are called Eved Hashem in the Torah. And that's Avram, Moshe, and Kalev. Nobody else. Not Yitzchak, not Yaakov. Now we all know the Hashem, we all know that sort of thing. But the word is not said in the Torah. I think Yeshua is said in Yeshua. But in your Torah, it's only 3. He was about 8 years old when he married Miriam, who was over 50. Okay, a little bit different their generations than ours. He already was a father. He had Chur as his Bechor. His grandson built a Mishkan. Great-grandson. Uri is his grandson. Tzala's great-grandson built a Mishkan when he's 13 years old. He's 38. Sent out by the Meraglim. What was his motivations at that time? How did that work? I mean, there's a lot of things there. And how was his feelings with Yeshua? Because the Skenim in Yeshua's time didn't really give him the proper cover. What was his relationship to Yeshua? And that interesting. Things like that.
How about Rabbi Akiva?
Rabbi Akiva is the greatest love story in history.
Oh, okay.
So that's what it is. So you want that, and he also passed through different matzavim. Also didn't have just one wife. He had, Kalev had at least 3 that I know of. And the one he was originally, he had Miriam, and he had Basi Baspala he marries. He was also much older than him, maybe even older than Miriam. Rabbi Akiva had a wife. Why did Rachel decide to leave her house, get kicked out of her father's house, luxury and everything else, to marry a guy who was first of all married? So you want to learn to say, well, probably he lost a wife and he married a second one. Okay, you want to say that because you feel better. It's like you feel better. But he has kids from the other wife. Now she's undertaking to become a stepmother. How old was she in the first place? And then she becomes a tzara to women that he marries afterwards. To Nisrufus, his wife, he marries afterwards. Did she die? There's some of the history books that want to say when she died and then he married her. Okay, good, fine. I can't answer you these questions. But he came out of nowhere, became the greatest. Everything we have is him. And, the steps that took in life. And he died a horrible, horrible death. And just interesting.
Yeah. Everyone nowadays is looking for Kabbalahs to take on, things to self-improve. And as I say that, you're nodding, you're shaking your head.
They ask me that. I'd say just pray. So it's the biggest Kabbalah you can take on yourself is pray. You don't pray. It could be in a way we're Americans. We have everything. It's very hard to beg. Imagine sometimes beg for your life. You everything. Beg for life.
We never beg for our life.
No such situation in life. Regular life. And I don't know if I would do that even if I was able to. Anything like that. But you're talking to God. There's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing. You're not talking about some bested Jew or anything else. You're talking about God. So you could get your relationship together between what's your relationship to God.
Just daven. So you say just daven.
But I'm saying, I guess in order to appreciate it, you have to first get your my relationship. And with that, God gives me everything that I would have. All of these things, obviously, there's a lot of hashkafas I gotta have, and if I don't have them, I gotta work on them.
I want to end with this question. The Rosh Yeshiva has a very big focus and importance on building people up and giving people confidence. I've heard, doing some research about the Rosh Yeshiva that if someone comes to Rosh Yeshiva with a business idea or some project, Rosh Yeshiva puts a very big emphasis on making sure the person feels self-confident and able to.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with the money. It has nothing to do with his accomplishment. But definitely in learning, he won't accomplish much if he doesn't think much of himself. And this is a lesson for my father, Taki. What does Anova mean? And he was an Anov. I think I'm one too. Okay, now, I just told it to you, right? And this is the old joke, when I was a kid, the Rebbe fell asleep on the table, and everybody's talking about what a great Goyen he is and everything else. And they finish speaking, and he gets up and he says, what about my Anova? Nobody mentioned. Okay, that was the joke. But it's not a joke. Anova doesn't mean you don't know who you are. You know who you are. Of course, like my father said, if you don't know who you are, you can't accomplish. Why would you undertake anything? Who am I? But that's nothing to brag about. It's God gave me this ability. It's not me. I didn't do anything for myself. God gave it to me. And I just happen to use it the proper way. But that's an instant. It's nothing to take credit for. So you're not maybe the guy that's over there. And so the question is then, good, but did you live up to your potential? I don't know. Probably not. Okay, if I didn't, maybe the other guy did. And if the other guy did, then he's bigger than me. He's better than me. Not bigger than me. I'm bigger than him, but he's better than me. And therefore I respect everybody. Because everybody's possibly better than me. Simple as that.
But why do you think people nowadays, let's say, don't think much of themselves or don't have a lot of confidence?
They got bosses in the way. They got wives. Depending on the case. I mean, what am I going to tell you? I guess in a certain way we're perfectionists. If a guy can't make it to fix, we have Bakiyas Bechinas here. And we have kids who actually learn the Homoseth to Baal Peh.
Wow.
And
about 13, 14-year-old kids.
Wow.
Now, the older ones already, they don't have to do this anymore. But the younger ones are still, this is the only thing there. So you got to tell them that God gave you a memory. God gave you this. It's not you, but you got to use it. You can do it. Do it. I can't do it. You can do it. But then the question is, I'm not going to do it because I can't get 100. We give marks. We also give them money. The guy he says, I'm not going to win anything. I'll get an 80 because it's 90 and over. So I'm going to get an 80. I'm not going to win anything. So why should I try? I said, are you kidding? For you to say you know 80% of the Masechta, you're embarrassed about that? What are you embarrassed about? That's the point. We made it that, if I don't have the top, you're nobody. And here we needed it. I call it the Harvard syndrome. Basically, what it means is all the kids we get pretty much are the best kids where they came from. And over here, they're not going to be the best kid. I mean, somebody will be, but they're not going to be.
Not going to be all of them.
Not going to be all of them. And all of a sudden, they can go down in the dumps. That's not your job. It's not your job to be the best. Your job is to do the best you can. The only competition you got is you. That was taught to Cain, really. In other words, Hevel was not your competition. The competition is you. And but he thought Hevel's the competition. If I get rid of the competition, then I got an easy way. It doesn't work that way.
Well, Rosh Yeshiva, thank you so much for spending this time with us. We really appreciate it. We hope we didn't go with any wrong direction.
I don't think we had anything that was out.
Okay.
I even got a chance to tell you some minute things if you can use them.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Hope you enjoyed that episode with Reb Reuven. And something that wasn't on the episode, Nachi and I and Surly, our amazing, incredible video guy, stayed after. Reb Reuven showed us a few Svarim, as well as it was really just so nice. He showed us.
What happened was I think we asked for a bracha, and Reuven said, "Okay, sit down. Let's discuss the bracha." And we went on for like a 35-minute conversation about Parnasa, about Shalom Bayis, about everything, and
a few specific brachas we asked for. He's like, he gave us this sefer. He's like, read the sefer. And we're like, that's a bracha. He's like, yeah, you learn the sefer, and you'll get the answers you're looking for. But it was really special. He showed us a few letters that people wrote to him about his wife, Alav Hashalom. Hashalom. And it was just really sweet. Like, people had the nicest things to say. I wish we could have got it included in the episode, but it was definitely very special. And it's very interesting, that little bubble they have in that area.
Staten Island. Yeah, it's like you enter Yeshiva of Staten Island Lane, and it's like nothing exists outside of it.
It's really cool. And the yeshivas in what was it? What did he say it was? It used to be a Catholic school or something.
Oh, it used to be like, I don't know, it was a church or it was a prep school or something.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't look like a yeshiva.
Anyone who's been there, you know what we're talking about. If you haven't been there, just take a trip.
And if you go there, by the way, he has tons of free CDs that you could take.
Reuven has tons of free CDs.
Yeah, that Knock and I definitely took a bunch of them. We were allowed to, but he encourages people to.
No, we did like.
Imagine we stole from Reuven Feinstein. That would not be cool. That would not be good.
Yaakov's a convicted felon now for stealing CDs.
No, I mean, like, stealing is terrible. It's always bad. But stealing from a Gadol Hadar, that wouldn't be good. But either way, if you enjoyed this episode, like Nachi said in the beginning, please share it with 2 people. And if you're feeling crazy, share it with 3 people. And if you didn't
like it, share it with 2 people that you don't like, because then they're going to spend like an hour and 10 minutes.
Reb Reuven, I can't imagine someone didn't like it.
It could be the problem with them, not Reb Reuven.
Or with us. They didn't like us.
Okay, you don't like us. So share it with people you don't like, and let them waste an hour of 10 minutes listening to us. All right? Ciao.